Hey guys, today I'm going to be reviewing another Debian-based distribution. Today I'm going to be reviewing SalentOS. SalentOS is a GNU/Linux operating system based on Debian Stable, and it uses the Openbox window manager. So I love Debian Stable. I like to run stable distros on my main machines, and I love the Openbox window manager, so it's a good fit for me, so I'm really excited to review SalentOS. Their webpage here at salentos.it, so the .it extension on the web address. I'm assuming the distro's country of origin is Italy. If I click on the Discover tab here, we have a little slideshow of some screenshots for SalentOS. Really professional looking website, beautiful screenshots. I'm going to click the Download tab here, and I'm going to download the 64-bit edition of SalentOS, codename Neriton. It looks like the latest release of SalentOS was on November 29th of 2017, so about 3-4 weeks ago we got the latest release of SalentOS, so it should be pretty fresh packages. So I'm going to install this inside VirtualBox. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've downloaded the ISO, and I'm going to run through the installation quickly here inside VirtualBox. Now we have the option in our boot menu here of try SalentOS in RAM, try SalentOS, try SalentOS failsafe, or install SalentOS. I'm going to go down to install SalentOS. Let's see what this does. It may launch some kind of text-based installer. No, this is the standard Debian 9 installer, so very straightforward. English has already been chosen for our language. United States is our location. American English is chosen for our keyboards. I just click continue 3 times. The Debian installer over the past 4 or 5 years has gotten a lot more user-friendly than what it used to be in the past. Alright, configuring our network. By default it's chosen SalentOS as our host name, so that's good. A lot of Debian-based distros don't bother changing that. A lot of times by default the host name will still say Debian. I like that SalentOS, the developers took the time to make sure the host name is SalentOS rather than just Debian. Makes it look like a more professional, polished product. Those little details. Alright, we need to create a user. I'm going to name my user Salent. Username for the account, Salent. We need to create a password. This is a password for our home user. Alright, configuring the clock. I'm in the central time zone in the US. I click continue. Alright, it's detecting disk, partition disk. Alright, the next thing that should run is the partitioning. Alright, we have the option of use guided partitioning, which uses the entire disk, gives the entire disk to SalentOS. This is usually what I would choose. For those that need to do some manual partitioning, you would go down here to the manual partitioning section here, and you would set up your manual partitions. You would do that if you needed to create separate partitions for like your home directory or your music directory, or for those of you that are dual booting alongside a second operating system such as Windows. I'm going to choose guided, use entire disk. Alright, I'm going to choose all files in one partition. It does, again, offer the option of creating a separate home partition. I'm not going to do that in a virtual machine. Alright, and it's going to create our primary extended 4 partition, 9.7 gigs, and then it's going to create a swap of 6.4 gigs. I hate this about the Debian installer. It always creates a swap the same size as the amount of RAM in your machine. I gave this virtual machine 6 gigs of RAM to run on. I always like to give it plenty of RAM to run on. But the Debian installer wants to create a 6 gig swap. Well, I only created a 15 gig virtual machine. Creating a 6 gig swap on a 15 gig hard drive of a virtual machine, basically it's wasted space. It's almost never going to use that swap anyway, so that's just 6.4 gigs of just wasted disk space. So I'm going to delete the swap. Alright, so I deleted the partition scheme that it created. So basically I'm just going to manually set everything up. So I deleted that 9 gig primary extended 4 drive. I deleted the 6 gig swap partition, excuse me. So I deleted that. So we have 16.1 gigs of free space now. Now I'm going to create a new partition. The partition size, I'm going to make it the full 16.1 gigs. It'll be a primary partition. Yeah, it's by default it's going to create an extended 4 file system. I'm fine with that, so I'm just going to go down here to done setting up the partition, and now I just have one extended 4 file system partition, 16.1 gigs. Yep. Then I go to finish partitioning, write changes to disk. Alright, and Debian always warns you, if you don't create a swap, it's going to ask you why are you not creating a swap. So, do you want to return to the partitioning menu? No, I do not. So, alright, write changes to the disk, yes. Now on real hardware, if you had a real hard drive, you know, where space is not an issue, you would always create a swap. You know, there's really no reason not to. But again, in these virtual machines, because I'm dealing with such a limited amount of hard drive space on these virtual machines, creating a swap is wasted space. If I do create a swap, I would make it something really small, like, you know, 250 megs, and, you know, maybe 512 megs. Certainly not more than a gig. And 6 gigs is way too big of a swap partition. So I'm going to pause the video while this installation runs. Alright, the installer has ran through that section of it. Now it's wanting to configure our package manager in Debian. The package manager is apt, apt. It's asking, do we want to use a network mirror? You need to choose yes on this. Basically, this is going to, you know, connect us to our fastest mirrors, you know, for our repos. We're located in the United States. Click continue, and the closest mirror to us is ftp.us.debian.org. Gonna leave that. Alright, proxy information, don't need to enter anything there. Alright, and now it's gonna go down and you know, find the fastest mirrors and set up the apt package manager for us. This will take a minute or two. I'll pause the video. Alright, it needs to install the Grub bootloader. So we have the option, install Grub bootloader to the master boot record, no or yes. Yes is ticked on by default. Yes, you do need to install the Grub bootloader, always. Alright, and then where to install it, /dev/sda is correct in my case here. Click continue, and it's going to install the Grub bootloader. Alright, and installation is complete. That install process from start to finish took maybe 10 minutes. I need to reboot the machine. Alright, I've rebooted the machine. This is our freshly installed SalentOS, again codenamed Neriton. I believe the version number they're going with on this version of SalentOS is 2.0. Could be wrong about that, I'll check it once I get into the operating system here. Alright, my username, I had chosen Salent. Enter a password. That's cool that we have the option of adding a little photo, you know. For those of you on computers that have multiple users, you know, if it's a family computer, you could have, you know, your picture, your wife's picture, kids' pictures, you know, so everybody knows, you know, which user is which. Alright, and this is SalentOS. Now I'm going to take a couple of minutes, see if I can get the VirtualBox guest editions working. Sometimes that's a challenge on some of these Debian-based distros. But give me just a minute, I'll be right back. Well, actually, before I even bother with the VirtualBox guest editions, it had asked me to enter my root password. It looks like SalentOS is running through what they call the first installation wizard. So it's going to do some updating of the system. It actually may fix the VirtualBox guest editions for me. So I'm going to run through this and see what happens. Part of the update process, it looks like new wallpapers are available. I'm going to click download for that. Well, I guess I don't know if I missed the chance to download those extra wallpapers or not. We'll see what happens. Alright, it looks like it's finished its little post-installation script. I'm going to reboot the machine. I'll see if the VirtualBox guest editions are working. Okay guys, I'm back. It looks like the VirtualBox guest editions are working now. So let me type in my username and my password. And now this is SalentOS with a proper screen resolution. And I got a notification here that we're going to start seeing some random wallpapers. So I guess it has some kind of wallpaper switcher program installed by default. So every few minutes the wallpaper should change. That's kind of cool. Initial impressions are beautiful wallpaper, default wallpaper. Also, I really like the nice minimal panel at the top of the screen. This is the Tint 2 panel. Let me open up couple of programs to show you how the Tent2 panel. I'll open up the file manager and our terminal. And the Tent2 panel, very nice, minimal, very lightweight panel you see installed in a lot of Openbox sessions. It's usually the panel I install whenever I set up Openbox. And then we have a little dock at the bottom of the screen here. Just wonder what dock this is. So right clicking on anything doesn't do anything. You know what? I don't think this is a dock. I think this is a second instance of the Tent2 panel. They just made it look like a dock, you know, with these big quick launcher icons on it. But this is just another Tent2 panel too, so it's not really a dock. It's just a quick launcher. You know, we can quickly launch, you know, like our file manager and terminal that I just opened up. Alright, let's see, what terminal is this? This is the LX terminal, so this is the default terminal in the LXDE desktop environment. And the file manager they're going with is Thunar, which is the default file manager in the XFCE desktop environment. Thunar is a great file manager. A lot of times in Openbox, though, when I set up Openbox, I use the PCManFM file manager because it's an even more minimal, lightweight file manager. But there's nothing wrong with Thunar. I really like Thunar. So let's go through the menu and see what programs are installed by default on SalentOS. Now, being Openbox, you have your right-click menu, your right-click Openbox menu that we could go through. Also at the top they have this little quick launcher here. This says menu. You click on it, all it does is open the Openbox menu again. It just, you know, it's a quick launcher to open that menu, but it's the exact same menu. It's the exact same command being operated here. It's just this, you know, you click a button and here I right click on the desktop, but it's the same menu. So going through the menu, we have our terminal, we have our web browser, which is Firefox, and then we have our applications menu here. This is a little pipe menu here, by the way. I'm pretty sure it is. So this is a dynamically created menu here, meaning this changes when you install programs, remove programs. Things will be added and removed for you without you having to manually you know, edit your menu files. So that's pretty cool. Under accessories, we have our calculator. We have Compton, which is our compositor. That's how you get, you know, your fancy transparencies and window shading and shadowing and all those good effects. You know, Compton is the compositor. We have our disk utility. Mousepad is our text editor. Mousepad is a great little text editor. It's the standard text editor in the XFCE desktop environment. Nitrogen is our wallpaper utility. I showed you guys a little bit of Nitrogen when I made my recent video on how to install Openbox. Nitrogen is usually the wallpaper selection utility I install. And while we're on wallpapers, it looks like by default they have 5 wallpapers installed by default. I had the option of downloading more wallpapers when I ran that post installation script, and I never chose to download them or to not download them, but I don't think it did download them since I took so long in not deciding. But the 5 wallpapers that are included by default are really gorgeous photos, really beautiful, you know, nature photographs here. Really cool stuff. You know what? I really like that second one, I think. Yeah, that's a really beautiful wallpaper right there. I'm going to go with that. Back to the menu, under accessories, we also have our password and keys, the screenshot utility for taking a screenshot of your desktop, and the X Archiver, which is the archive tool for XFCE, you know, for zip, unzip, tar files, that sort of thing. Education, LibreOffice Math. Under graphics, we have our document viewer for viewing PDFs. Image Magic, the wallpaper changed again. It's going to rotate through those wallpapers. They have that set up by default on SalentOS. So LibreOffice Draw also appears under graphics. Mirage and Simple Scan. I'm not sure what Mirage is. I've never seen that one before. Mirage, a fast GTK image viewer. So another like photo viewer. Think of it, I guess, probably a lightweight, minimal kind of Shotwell photo manager kind of alternative. Under Internet, we have Firefox ESR, we have Thunderbird as our email client, and we have the Transmission BitTorrent client. Transmission is the standard BitTorrent client in the GNOME desktop environment. Alright, also under Office, we have our document viewer again, and then we have the entire LibreOffice suite installed by default. Great, love that. Being an Openbox distro, you know, a lot of Openbox distros don't install the entire LibreOffice suite because If you're running Openbox, you're probably wanting a lightweight, minimal desktop. And LibreOffice, it's kind of a big, robust kind of suite of programs. So a lot of Openbox distros install lightweight word processors like AbiWord and lightweight spreadsheet programs like Numeric. But really, everybody uses LibreOffice. I'm glad they went ahead and just installed the LibreOffice suite. Under Other, we have iStuff to Thunderbird. We have Menu. I guess this is our Openbox menu. Yeah, all that does is just launch the menu. They created a little like .desktop application launcher for the menu. That's pretty cool. And Shutdown, of course. You click that and we should get our exit session for shutdown, reboot, log out, that sort of thing. Programming, we have our icon browser. Sound and video, Pulse Audio, and then we have the VLC media player. So VLC, great multimedia player for Linux, also available on Windows and Mac. And the version on SalentOS here is 2.2.6, which I believe is the latest version of VLC. I could be wrong about that. Pretty recent version though, for sure. Alright, system tools. We have our bulk rename tool. We have the GDebi package installer. GDebi is a package installer you see on a lot of Debian based distros. It helps you install .deb files, Debian files. Alright, and also under system tools we have the live USB install. We have our LX terminal again. Network tools, root terminal, our task manager. Let's open up the task manager. See what kind of CPU and memory usage we're using. Alright, now having opened up and closed a lot of programs recently, you would expect some of this to be a little higher than normal, but CPU usage right now is sitting at 1%. Fantastic. Memory usage, I gave this machine 6 gigs of memory. It is using 339 megs of memory. Fantastic. This is really good. Really good. One of the best I've seen actually on an Openbox session. So really good job on that. Thunar again is the file manager. Tent2 is our panel at the top and the bottom. And then we have Xterm, of course, installed. Under Preferences, we have AR&R. This would be what you would use to configure your monitors and resolution. Right now I'm just using one monitor in this virtual machine, although I could set it up to use my full triple monitor system, but I don't like to record more than one screen for video because it looks bad on YouTube. So you guys, I usually just video my middle monitor, the second of the 3 monitors on my workstation here. Alright, then we have Customized Look and Feel. I believe this is the LX Appearance program. This is the look and feel program for the LXDE desktop environment. This allows you to set your window theming, your icon themes. Icon themes, they have the Adwaita theme and the elementary Ubuntu Dark theme, and then some various GNOME themes installed. GNOME Wise is what they're using by default, which is these green icons. Doesn't look too bad. Much better than the default Adwaita theme that GNOME uses. Elementary Ubuntu Dark, it actually looks very similar to the Adwaita theme. It's kind of hideous looking too. I'll just go back to the default icon theme, the GNOME Wise theme. And very quickly to wrap it up, going through the preferences, your standard preference settings for, we have the gparted partition editor, which you really would never need to play with gparted. That's mainly for rescuing systems, like if you're having problems with like your bootloader or whatever after install. Mainly for using this on live DVDs and live USBs. It's not something you would ever use on an installed system. Alright, we have our ICE-T web control panel, LightDM greeter settings. LightDM was the login manager. When I typed in my username and password, that program is LightDM. We have LX key map for, key mapping. Network connections, we have OB key, Openbox. Configuration manager, this sets the theme for the Openbox window manager. The theme, of course, is the frame of the window and the right-click menu. It is set to Victory Midnight. If I change it, say, to Sync Crash, you see the frame of the windows now are kind of grayish. The right-click menu is gray with these darker gray highlights. I'm going to go back to the default theme. That was actually a really nice default theme. Alright, moving down the list of preferences, we have our Power Manager, Print Settings, Qt 4 settings, the SalentOS Control Center. Let's check that out. So it has its own little control center, similar to how you would see in like something like GNOME, KDE, Unity, Cinnamon. They all have their little, control centers. Appearance, we have Wallpaper, Appearance, OBConf, basically quick launchers to those programs that I just launched. The OB Configuration Manager is OBConf. Appearance is going to be LX Appearance. Wallpaper is probably Nitrogen. Under System, we have System and the Synaptic Package Manager. So they're using Synaptic Package Manager for their graphical package manager. A lot of Debian-based distros use the Synaptic Package Manager for their graphical install, remove, update, upgrade software. All you do is you click Reload here to update the repos. Once that's done, you choose Mark All Upgrades. There's not going to be any upgrades because we upgraded the system when we ran that installation script, post-installation script, so there's no upgrades. But if there were, then you would hit a button here, Apply, and you're done. You just wait for the update to take place. Very easy to use the Synaptic Package Manager. Back to the control center, we have Openbox stuff here. We have the option to edit our RC file, which is a config file for Openbox. We have OB key again, startup services for our auto start programs that launch when we first launch up Openbox. For example, this Tent2 panel, it's going to be in the startup services. By default, nothing starts up when you start up an Openbox session. You have to state specifically you want the Tent2 panel to launch. You want Nitrogen to put a wallpaper on the screen. None of this stuff starts unless you create a startup file for Openbox. Then we have our menu here. This is OB menu to configure our right-click menu here. I have session settings, personal settings, and then hardware stuff. The usual suspects here, keyboard and monitor and printer. So, what is my verdict on SalentOS? I love it. The install, very simple. It's your standard Debian installer. The Debian installer is not, the quickest, not the fastest. It's not as good as the Ubuntu Ubiquity installer that's just dead simple to run through, or the Calamares installer you see in a lot of the Arch-based distros I review. But the Debian installer is not bad. Pretty simple to run through. 10 minutes and you're done. So I give the install process an A. The actual Openbox desktop for SalentOS, I give an A+. This is probably the best setup Openbox session I've seen on any Linux distro for a newer Linux user, for a novice. Like if you were going to install this on somebody that's only been around Linux a few months, really is not a geek. Because a lot of the other Openbox distros I've reviewed, even though I love them, I loved Arch Labs when I reviewed it. ArchMerge had a good Openbox session on it, but being Arch based, and also the selection of programs on those particular distros, not as user friendly. They're more for Linux enthusiasts. And while, I wouldn't mind living in them, a lot of, newer Linux users would much prefer something like this. This is dead simple here. This looks like a proper desktop environment, the way they have the Tent2 panels set up. You have your quick launchers at the bottom, almost like a dock at the bottom. The way they've included the Openbox menu here at the top, and this is just a quick launcher, but it launches your, Openbox menu. Of course, you have your Openbox menu with this pipe menu that's already populated all your programs, so you really don't have to do any kind of manual setting up of this Openbox menu. A lot of new users do not want to config an Openbox menu. The selection of wallpapers, everything about this, it looks very, very new user friendly. The fact that it's based on Debian stable. You can't get a more stable Linux distro than Debian stable. Rock solid. The Debian repos have probably the largest selection of packages available out of anybody's repos, although Ubuntu, I would argue, because of their PPA system, probably trumps Debian in a lot of ways. Maybe Arch too if you're using the AUR, but the Debian repos, pretty much everything you want to install, it's in the Debian repos. So SalentOS, A+. You guys that are looking for a stable distro running the Openbox window manager, check out SalentOS. This is about as good as it gets. Peace.